Question 1. Quality control measures reveal a commercial passenger transport driver has been observed on multiple occasions allowing passengers to request immediate stops in areas clearly marked with no stopping or no parking signs. And on at least one occasion, the driver has complied with such a request to facilitate a passenger's urgent need to retrieve an item from a nearby shop. The driver states they felt pressured by the passenger's urgency and believed it was a minor inconvenience. Which of the following actions best represents the driver's professional and legal responsibility in this situation? Option A. Engage in a lengthy discussion with the passenger about the specific details of the local parking ordinance to justify the refusal. Option B. Comply with the passenger's request to stop in the restricted zone, as the passenger's urgency is a priority and the stop is brief. Option C. Politely explain to the passenger that the requested location is a restricted zone according to local ordinances, and offer to find the nearest legal parking spot to assist them. Option D. Inform the passenger that their request cannot be fulfilled due to the restricted zone, but proceed without further explanation or offering alternatives. Correct answer is C. Politely explain to the passenger that the requested location is a restricted zone according to local ordinances, and offer to find the nearest legal parking spot to assist them. Explanation. This scenario presents a common ethical and regulatory challenge for commercial drivers, balancing the immediate needs of passengers with strict adherence to local traffic laws. The driver is faced with a situation where a passenger's urgent request conflicts directly with established parking regulations. The professional challenge lies in navigating this conflict without compromising safety, legal compliance, or passenger service. The correct approach prioritizes adherence to local ordinances, specifically parking restrictions. This is best professional practice because commercial drivers operate under a strict legal framework designed to ensure public safety and order. Local laws regarding parking are in place for reasons such as maintaining traffic flow, ensuring access for emergency vehicles, and preventing obstruction. Disregarding these laws, even for a seemingly minor inconvenience to a passenger, can lead to citations, fines, and potential disciplinary action, impacting the driver's license and employment. Furthermore, setting a precedent of bending rules for passenger convenience can erode overall compliance and safety standards. An incorrect approach involves yielding to the passenger's request to park in a restricted zone. This is a regulatory failure because it directly violates local ordinances. Ethically, it demonstrates a lack of professional integrity and a disregard for the law. Another incorrect approach is to argue with the passenger about the legality of the request. While the driver is correct in identifying the restriction, the manner of communication can be unprofessional and escalate the situation unnecessarily, failing to de-escalate and find a compliant solution. A third incorrect approach is to ignore the passenger's request and proceed without addressing their concern. This is a failure in customer service and can lead to passenger dissatisfaction and complaints, even if the driver is technically compliant with parking laws. It misses an opportunity to professionally explain the situation and offer alternative compliance solutions. Professionals should approach such situations by first acknowledging the passenger's request, and then calmly and clearly explaining the relevant local parking restrictions. They should then offer a compliant alternative, such as parking in the nearest legal spot and assisting the passenger from there, or suggesting a brief wait in a safe, legal location. This demonstrates respect for the passenger's needs while upholding professional and legal responsibilities. Question 2. The assessment process reveals that a commercial driver is operating a passenger vehicle on a rural highway after sunset. Visibility is significantly reduced, and the driver encounters a steady stream of oncoming traffic, each vehicle's headlights creating momentary glare. The driver is concerned about maintaining their schedule. Which of the following actions best demonstrates adherence to safe night driving practices and regulatory expectations? Option A. Continue at the posted speed limit, using high beams whenever there are no oncoming vehicles and switching to low beams only when absolutely necessary to avoid blinding other drivers. Option B. Reduce speed significantly below the posted limit, increase following distance, and consistently use low beams when approaching any oncoming traffic to minimize glare for both themselves and others. Option C. Maintain normal daytime driving speeds and following distances, assuming that the vehicle's headlights are sufficient to illuminate the road ahead adequately. Option D. Focus intently on the headlights of oncoming vehicles to anticipate their position, while continuing to use high beams to maximize forward visibility. The correct answer is A. Continue at the posted speed limit, using high beams whenever there are no oncoming vehicles and switching to low beams only when absolutely necessary to avoid blinding other drivers. Explanation: Scenario analysis. This scenario presents a common yet critical challenge for commercial drivers operating at night. Reduced visibility, the inherent risks of fatigue, and the disorienting effects of glare from oncoming headlights demand heightened awareness and proactive adjustments to driving habits. The professional challenge lies in balancing the need to maintain a schedule with the absolute imperative of passenger safety, especially when conditions are less than ideal. A driver's judgment in these situations directly impacts the well-being of everyone on board. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach prioritizes safety by acknowledging the limitations imposed by night driving conditions. This involves actively reducing speed to allow for adequate reaction time, increasing following distance to compensate for reduced visibility and longer stopping distances, and employing defensive driving techniques such as anticipating potential hazards. Specifically, using low beams when approaching other vehicles is crucial to mitigate glare for oncoming drivers and to prevent temporary blindness for oneself. This approach aligns with the fundamental duty of care owed to passengers and adheres to the principles of safe operation mandated by commercial driver regulations, which implicitly require drivers to adapt their behavior to prevailing conditions. Incorrect approaches analysis. One incorrect approach involves maintaining normal daytime speeds and following distances. This fails to account for the significantly reduced visibility at night, where obstacles and hazards may not be detected until it is too late to react safely. It also ignores the increased risk of fatigue, which can impair judgment and reaction time. This approach violates the implicit requirement for drivers to operate their vehicles safely under all conditions, and specifically, it disregards the need for increased caution during periods of reduced visibility. Another incorrect approach is to rely solely on high beams to improve visibility, even when approaching other vehicles. While high beams can enhance forward vision in the absence of other traffic, using them when oncoming vehicles are present creates dangerous glare, potentially blinding other drivers and increasing the risk of an accident. This demonstrates a failure to understand and effectively manage the impact of glare, a critical aspect of night driving safety. Ethically and regulatorily, this is unacceptable as it actively contributes to a hazardous situation for others. A third incorrect approach is to ignore the effects of glare and continue driving, as if visibility were unimpeded. This demonstrates a lack of situational awareness and a failure to adapt driving techniques to mitigate risks. It suggests a disregard for the potential dangers posed by oncoming headlights and other light sources, which can cause temporary vision impairment and disorientation. This approach is fundamentally unsafe and breaches the driver's responsibility to operate their vehicle with the utmost care and attention. Professional reasoning. Professionals in passenger transport must adopt a proactive and adaptive mindset. When faced with reduced visibility, the decision-making process should begin with a self-assessment of alertness and a thorough understanding of the vehicle's capabilities and limitations under such conditions. The primary consideration must always be passenger safety. This involves a continuous evaluation of the driving environment, anticipating potential hazards, and making necessary adjustments to speed, following distance, and lighting. Adherence to regulations is not merely about following rules, but about embodying the spirit of safe operation, which necessitates constant vigilance and a willingness to modify behavior to ensure the well-being of all road users. Question 3. Benchmark analysis indicates that a commercial bus driver, during their pre-trip inspection, notices a slight but consistent squeaking sound coming from the front passenger side brake assembly when the pedal is lightly applied. The driver also observes that the brake pedal feels slightly softer than usual, though it still engages the brakes effectively enough to stop the bus. The driver is running slightly behind schedule for their first passenger pickup. What is the most appropriate course of action? Option A. Inform dispatch about the potential brake issue and ask if it's acceptable to continue the route if the brakes still stop the bus. Option B. Apply slightly more pressure to the brake pedal during the trip to compensate for the perceived softness and continue the route. Option C. Proceed with the route as scheduled, assuming the issue is minor and will be addressed during the next scheduled maintenance check. Option D. Report the brake noise and soft pedal feel to the maintenance department immediately and request an inspection before proceeding with the route. Correct answer is D. Report the brake noise and soft pedal feel to the maintenance department immediately and request an inspection before proceeding with the route. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge because it forces a driver to balance immediate operational pressures with critical safety responsibilities. The driver is under pressure to maintain a schedule, which can create an incentive to overlook or downplay potential safety issues. The ethical dilemma lies in prioritizing the schedule and passenger convenience over the absolute requirement for a safe vehicle. Careful judgment is required to recognize that even minor defects can escalate into serious safety hazards, potentially leading to accidents, injuries, and legal repercussions. The correct approach represents best professional practice because it adheres strictly to the regulatory framework for commercial driver's license passenger transport, specifically concerning vehicle inspection. Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration (FMCSA) regulations mandate pre-trip inspections to ensure the vehicle is safe for operation. Identifying and reporting defects, even those that might seem minor, is a non-negotiable responsibility. This proactive approach prevents potential breakdowns, ensures compliance with safety standards, and ultimately protects passengers and the public. It aligns with the ethical obligation of a professional driver to operate a safe vehicle at all times. An incorrect approach that involves proceeding with the trip despite a known defect, even if it appears minor, represents a significant regulatory and ethical failure. This directly violates FMCSA regulations, requiring drivers to ensure their vehicles are in safe operating condition before and during operation. Ethically, it demonstrates a disregard for passenger safety and a failure to uphold the professional standards expected of a CDL holder. Another incorrect approach, such as assuming a mechanic will find the issue later without reporting it, is also a failure. The driver has a personal responsibility to report defects discovered during their inspection. Relying on others to identify issues that were within the driver's purview to discover and report is a dereliction of duty. The professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve a clear hierarchy of priorities: safety first, then compliance, then operational efficiency. Drivers should be trained to conduct thorough inspection and to understand the potential consequences of various defects. When a defect is identified, the driver must follow established procedures for reporting and addressing it, which may involve taking the vehicle out of service until the defect is repaired. This process requires clear communication with dispatch and maintenance personnel, and the driver must be empowered to make safety-related decisions without undue pressure to compromise. Question 4. The assessment process reveals a commercial driver approaching an intersection where they intend to turn right. They activate their right turn signal approximately 50 feet before the intersection. As they approach, they observe a pedestrian in the crosswalk on the far side of the intersection, but do not check their side mirrors. They proceed with the turn without further signaling or adjusting their speed. Which of the following communication and maneuvering strategies best exemplifies professional best practice for a commercial driver in this situation? Option A. Use the horn intermittently to alert pedestrians and other drivers of the impending turn, and then proceed with the turn after a brief pause. Option B. Rely on visual cues from other drivers and pedestrians to gauge the safety of the turn, and proceed once it appears clear, without necessarily using mirrors or additional signals. Option C. Activate the right turn signal well in advance, check all mirrors, including side mirrors for blind spots, and scan for pedestrians, yield to the pedestrian if necessary, and then execute a smooth, controlled right turn. Option D. Activate the right turn signal just before entering the intersection and immediately turn, assuming other road users will react appropriately. The correct answer is C. Activate the right turn signal well in advance, check all mirrors including side mirrors for blind spots, and scan for pedestrians, yield to the pedestrian if necessary, and then execute a smooth, controlled right turn. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario is professionally challenging because it requires a commercial driver to simultaneously manage multiple communication channels and anticipate the actions of other road users in a dynamic environment. The driver must not only execute proper signaling, but also interpret the reactions of others and adjust their own behavior accordingly, all while maintaining passenger safety and adhering to traffic laws. The complexity arises from the need for proactive, clear, and defensive communication. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach demonstrates best professional practice by prioritizing clear, multimodal communication that accounts for all potential road users, using the turn signal well in advance, checking mirrors for blind spots, and then making a safe maneuver directly addresses the requirements of safe passenger transport operations. This aligns with regulations that mandate clear signaling to alert other drivers and pedestrians of intended actions, thereby preventing collisions and ensuring smooth traffic flow. It reflects a commitment to passenger safety and operational efficiency by minimizing uncertainty for others on the road. Correct approaches analysis. An approach that relies solely on a quick turn signal without checking mirrors or considering pedestrian presence is a significant regulatory and ethical failure. It violates the principle of due diligence in ensuring a safe maneuver and fails to communicate intent effectively to all relevant parties, including those in blind spots or on sidewalks. This increases the risk of accidents and demonstrates a disregard for the safety of others. An approach that involves excessive horn use or aggressive signaling is also professionally unacceptable. While the horn can be used for warnings, its overuse can be disruptive and may be interpreted as aggressive, potentially escalating situations rather than clarifying intent. This can lead to confusion and unsafe reactions from other drivers and pedestrians, violating the expectation of calm and controlled operation of a commercial vehicle. An approach that neglects mirror usage and relies only on visual cues from other drivers or pedestrians is fundamentally flawed. Mirrors are critical tools for a commercial driver to gain a comprehensive understanding of their surroundings, especially in blind spots. Failing to use them is a direct violation of safe operating procedures and regulations designed to mitigate the risks associated with large vehicle operation. This demonstrates a lack of situational awareness and a failure to employ essential safety equipment. Professional reasoning. Professionals should employ a systematic approach to communication and maneuvering. This involves a mental checklist. 1. Identify the intended action, e.g., turning, changing lanes. 2. Activate the appropriate turn signal hazard lights well in advance. 3. Utilize mirrors, side, rear view to assess the surrounding traffic and identify potential hazards or blind spots. 4. Scan for pedestrians and cyclists. 5. Execute the maneuver only when it is safe to do so, continuing to use signals and mirrors as needed. 6. If necessary, use the horn judiciously for a brief warning. This layered approach ensures that communication is clear, comprehensive, and proactive, prioritizing the safety of passengers, other road users, and the driver. Question 5. The audit findings indicate that during a sudden downpour on a highway, a commercial passenger bus began to fishtail. The driver immediately applied firm, continuous braking while attempting to steer straight ahead. The bus continued to slide for several seconds before the driver managed to regain partial control, narrowly avoiding a collision with another vehicle. Based on the principles of skid control and recovery for commercial drivers, which of the following actions, if taken by the driver, would have represented the most appropriate and safest response to initiate skid recovery? Option A. Immediately steer sharply in the opposite direction of the skid to counteract the slide. Option B. Slam on the brakes as hard as possible to stop the vehicle as quickly as possible. Option C. Maintain full acceleration to try and power through the skid. Option D. Gently ease off the accelerator and steer smoothly in the direction of the skid, then gradually correct steering as traction is regained. The correct answer is D. Gently ease off the accelerator and steer smoothly in the direction of the skid, then gradually correct steering as traction is regained. Explanation. This scenario is professionally challenging because it requires the driver to react instantly and correctly to a loss of traction, a situation that can rapidly escalate and lead to severe consequences, including passenger injury and vehicle damage. The driver's immediate actions directly impact safety and compliance with commercial driver regulations. The correct approach, which involves recognizing the skid, easing off the accelerator, steering gently in the direction of the skid, and then smoothly correcting the steering as traction is regained, represents best professional practice. This technique aligns with the principles of skid control and recovery mandated by commercial driver licensing regulations, which emphasize maintaining control of the vehicle under adverse conditions. Specifically, it adheres to guidelines that promote understanding the causes of skids, e.g., excessive speed, sudden braking, sharp turns on slippery surfaces, and employing appropriate recovery techniques to prevent wheel lockup and regain traction without overcorrecting. This proactive and controlled response minimizes the risk of further loss of control and ensures passenger safety, a paramount ethical and regulatory obligation for commercial passenger transport operators. An incorrect approach, such as slamming on the brakes upon feeling the rear of the bus slide, is a critical regulatory and ethical failure. This action directly leads to wheel lockup, exacerbating the skid and making recovery significantly more difficult, if not impossible. Regulations for commercial drivers explicitly warn against aggressive braking in slippery conditions, as it negates the effectiveness of anti-lock braking systems (ABS) and can cause a complete loss of steering control. Another incorrect approach, panicking and oversteering in the opposite direction of the skid, is equally dangerous. This overcorrection can cause the vehicle to fishtail in the other direction, leading to a secondary skid and potential rollover. This demonstrates a failure to understand and apply proper skid recovery techniques, violating the duty of care owed to passengers and the public. A third incorrect approach, attempting to accelerate through the skid, is also a severe failure. Applying power during a skid generally worsens the situation by increasing wheel spin and reducing the tire's ability to regain traction, further compromising control and safety. Professional decision-making in such situations requires a calm, analytical approach. Drivers must first identify the type of skid, e.g., oversteer, understeer. Then they must apply the appropriate recovery technique, easing off the accelerator, steering into the skid, and then smoothly countersteering as the vehicle straightens. This process is reinforced through regular training and adherence to established safety protocols, which are integral to maintaining a commercial driver's license and operating a passenger transport service responsibly. Question 6. Market research demonstrates that commercial passenger transport operators frequently encounter situations where engine performance deviates from normal. A driver operating a passenger bus notices a persistent, unusual knocking sound emanating from the engine compartment, accompanied by a faint smell of burning oil during a routine route. The driver has a full load of passengers and is approximately 30 miles from the next scheduled stop. What is the most appropriate and regulatory compliant course of action? Option A. Continue driving to the next scheduled stop as the engine is still running and the sound is not excessively loud, to avoid delaying passengers and incurring penalties for lateness. Option B. Immediately pull over to a safe location off the roadway, shut down the engine, and conduct a visual inspection for obvious leaks or damage. Then consult the vehicle's operational manual and company policy for next steps. Option C. Attempt to locate the source of the knocking sound by briefly revving the engine while parked on the shoulder of the road to see if the sound changes. Option D. Turn off the radio and ask passengers if they can hear the knocking sound, then continue driving to the next stop while monitoring the sound's intensity. The correct answer is A. Continue driving to the next scheduled stop as the engine is still running and the sound is not excessively loud, to avoid delaying passengers and incurring penalties for lateness. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario presents a common challenge for commercial drivers, recognizing and responding to potential engine issues that could compromise safety and operational efficiency. The professional challenge lies in accurately diagnosing the problem based on sensory input, sight, sound, smell, and then taking the appropriate regulatory compliant action without causing undue delay or risking further damage. The driver must balance the immediate need to maintain a schedule with the paramount responsibility of ensuring vehicle safety and passenger well-being, all while adhering to specific operational guidelines. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach involves a systematic, safety-first response. This includes immediately pulling over to a safe location, shutting down the engine to prevent further damage, and conducting a thorough visual and auditory inspection. The driver should then consult the vehicle's operational manual and company policy for specific troubleshooting steps or reporting procedures related to the observed symptoms. This approach is best professional practice because it prioritizes safety by removing the vehicle from active traffic, prevents potential mechanical escalation, and ensures adherence to established protocols for vehicle maintenance and reporting, which are often mandated by commercial driver regulations. For example, regulations typically require drivers to ensure their vehicle is in safe operating condition before and during operation, and this includes responding to indications of mechanical failure. Incorrect approaches analysis. Continuing to operate the vehicle with a suspected engine problem, even if it seems minor, is a significant regulatory and ethical failure. This directly violates the driver's responsibility to operate a safe vehicle and could lead to a breakdown in a dangerous location, endangering passengers and other road users. It also risks severe mechanical damage, leading to costly repairs and extended downtime, which can be a breach of company policy and potentially contractual obligations. Ignoring unusual engine noises or smells without investigation is also a failure, as these are often early indicators of developing issues that, if left unaddressed, can escalate into critical failures. Attempting complex repairs without proper training or authorization is another failure, as it could exacerbate the problem, void warranties, and potentially lead to unsafe conditions if not performed correctly. This also bypasses established company procedures for maintenance and repair, which are designed to ensure quality and compliance. Professional reasoning. Professionals in this field should employ a decision-making process that begins with a safety-first mindset. When any unusual symptom is detected, the immediate priority is to ensure the safety of passengers and other road users by finding a safe place to stop. Next, a driver should use their training and available resources, manuals, company dispatch, to assess the situation. This involves a systematic check of observable indicators. If the issue cannot be immediately resolved or identified as non-critical, the driver must follow established company procedures for reporting and seeking assistance from qualified mechanics. This structured approach ensures that all regulatory requirements for vehicle safety are met and that operational disruptions are managed effectively and responsibly. Question 7. The monitoring system demonstrates that the bus is maintaining a consistent speed and a fixed following distance behind the vehicle directly ahead. However, the driver is not actively scanning the periphery or the road far ahead for potential hazards. Which approach best reflects the regulatory requirements for space management and hazard recognition in passenger transport? Option A. Maintain the current fixed following distance and speed, as this demonstrates adherence to a predictable driving pattern. Option B. Focus solely on the vehicle directly ahead and react only when a hazard becomes immediately apparent. Option C. Adjust speed proactively based on scanning the entire traffic environment and anticipating potential hazards, while maintaining a safe following distance that allows for gradual deceleration. Option D. Increase speed slightly to reduce the following distance, assuming the vehicle ahead is moving at a safe pace. The correct answer is C. Adjust speed proactively based on scanning the entire traffic environment and anticipating potential hazards, while maintaining a safe following distance that allows for gradual deceleration. Explanation. This scenario presents a common challenge for commercial drivers, balancing the need to maintain a safe following distance with the pressure to keep to a schedule, especially when traffic conditions are unpredictable. The driver must actively manage their speed and awareness to avoid sudden braking or evasive maneuvers, which can be dangerous for passengers. The correct approach emphasizes proactive hazard identification and space management. By consistently scanning ahead and to the sides, the driver can anticipate potential issues, such as a vehicle slowing abruptly or a pedestrian entering the roadway. This allows for gradual speed adjustments and maintaining a safe buffer zone, which is a core requirement of safe passenger transport operations. This aligns with regulations that mandate drivers operate their vehicles in a manner that ensures the safety of their passengers and other road users, requiring them to maintain adequate space and control. An incorrect approach that focuses solely on maintaining a fixed following distance without considering the surrounding traffic flow or potential hazards is insufficient. This fails to account for the dynamic nature of driving and the need for adaptive speed control. Another incorrect approach that prioritizes speed over maintaining adequate space ignores the fundamental principle of defensive driving and the regulatory obligation to prevent accidents. This creates an unacceptable risk to passengers. Finally, an approach that relies on reacting only when a hazard is imminent, rather than anticipating it, demonstrates a failure in scanning techniques and hazard recognition, directly contravening the expected standard of care for a commercial driver. Professional drivers should employ a continuous cycle of scanning, anticipating, and adjusting. This involves looking far down the road, checking mirrors frequently, and being aware of the movement of all vehicles and pedestrians around them. When a potential hazard is identified, the driver should assess the risk and make smooth, controlled adjustments to speed and position to maintain a safe operating space. This proactive strategy minimizes the likelihood of sudden, dangerous reactions and ensures compliance with safety regulations. Question 8. Benchmark analysis indicates that aggressive driving poses a significant risk to passenger transport safety. When a CDL passenger transport operator encounters another vehicle exhibiting aggressive driving behaviors, such as tailgating, sudden lane changes, or excessive speed, what is the most appropriate and legally compliant course of action to mitigate risk and ensure passenger safety? Option A. Accelerate to create more distance and signal aggressively to the other driver to back off. Option B. Maintain a steady speed and safe following distance. Avoid eye contact. And if the aggressive driver's behavior continues to be a direct threat, find a safe location to pull over and report the incident to dispatch or authorities. Option C. Engage in a verbal exchange with the aggressive driver through an open window to de-escalate the situation. Option D. Immediately pull over to the side of the road and wait for the aggressive driver to leave the area, regardless of traffic conditions. The correct answer is B. Maintain a steady speed and safe following distance, avoid eye contact, and if the aggressive driver's behavior continues to be a direct threat, find a safe location to pull over and report the incident to dispatch or authorities. Explanation: this scenario presents a professional challenge for a commercial driver's license, CDL, passenger transport operator because it requires immediate, on-the-spot judgment to de-escalate a potentially dangerous situation while adhering to strict safety regulations. The driver must balance the need to maintain a safe operating environment for all passengers with the imperative to avoid engaging in or escalating aggressive driving behaviors, which are explicitly prohibited and carry severe consequences. The correct approach represents best professional practice because it prioritizes the safety and well-being of all individuals involved, aligning directly with the core principles of passenger transport safety and the regulatory framework governing CDL operations. Specifically, it adheres to regulations that mandate defensive driving, the avoidance of confrontational interactions, and the reporting of hazardous driving conditions or behaviors. This approach demonstrates a commitment to maintaining control of the vehicle and the situation, thereby preventing potential accidents or altercations. An incorrect approach that involves retaliating or mirroring the aggressive driver's behavior is a direct violation of CDL regulations. Such actions constitute aggressive driving themselves, which is a serious offense that can lead to license suspension, fines, and potential criminal charges. Ethically, it fails to uphold the driver's responsibility to provide a safe and secure environment for passengers. Another incorrect approach, such as ignoring the aggressive driver completely without taking any evasive or defensive measures, could be deemed negligent if it leads to a hazardous situation or an accident. While avoiding engagement is key, a complete lack of defensive action when faced with a clear threat is not in line with the expectation of professional vigilance. The professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve a rapid assessment of the threat, prioritizing vehicle control and passenger safety above all else. This includes maintaining a safe following distance, signaling intentions clearly, and if possible and safe to do so, allowing the aggressive driver to pass. If the aggressive behavior persists or escalates, the driver should consider pulling over in a safe, well-lit location and contacting their dispatcher or the appropriate authorities to report the incident, rather than engaging directly. Question 9. Governance review demonstrates that a commercial driver operating a passenger transport vehicle is approaching the end of their 11-hour driving limit and is within 30 minutes of their 14-hour on-duty limit for the day. While en route, dispatch offers an opportunity to pick up a group of passengers at a location that is 15 minutes off their current route. The driver knows that the pickup process itself will take approximately 10 minutes, and the passengers will then be traveling to a destination that is another 45 minutes away from the pickup point. Considering the federal hours of service regulations for commercial drivers, what is the most appropriate course of action for the driver? Option A. Proceed with the passenger pickup, and then attempt to adjust the on-duty time recorded on the ELD to reflect a shorter duration to avoid a violation. Option B. Accept the passenger pickup, as the total additional driving and on-duty time is minimal and unlikely to be flagged by the ELD. Option C. Decline the passenger pickup, as it would likely result in exceeding either the 11-hour driving limit or the 14-hour on-duty limit, thereby violating federal regulations. Option D. Accept the passenger pickup, assuming the driver can drive slightly over the 11-hour limit for a short period to reach the destination, as the ELD may allow for minor deviations. The correct answer is C. Decline the passenger pickup, as it would likely result in exceeding either the 11-hour driving limit or the 14-hour on-duty limit, thereby violating federal regulations. Explanation: scenario analysis. This scenario presents a common challenge for commercial drivers operating under hours of service (HOS) regulations. The driver is faced with a situation where they are nearing the end of their allowed driving time and are presented with an opportunity to pick up passengers. The professional challenge lies in balancing the need to operate a business efficiently with the absolute mandate to comply with safety regulations designed to prevent driver fatigue. Misjudging the remaining time or the impact of the stop can lead to serious violations. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach prioritizes strict adherence to the HOS regulations as defined by the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration, FMCSA, in the United States. This involves accurately accounting for all driving time and on-duty time, and understanding the implications of the 11-hour driving limit and the 14-hour on-duty limit. The driver must recognize that picking up passengers constitutes on-duty time and will consume their remaining driving or on-duty hours, potentially preventing them from completing their current trip legally or forcing them to stop prematurely. Best professional practice dictates that the driver must assess their current HOS status and determine if the proposed passenger pickup can be accommodated within the legal limits without exceeding them. If it cannot, the driver must decline the pickup to ensure compliance. This upholds the ethical responsibility to public safety by preventing fatigue driving. Incorrect approaches analysis. One incorrect approach involves assuming that since the driving time is close to the limit, a short passenger pickup can be accommodated without issue. This fails to recognize that any on-duty activity, including picking up passengers, counts towards the 14-hour on-duty limit and can also impact the ability to complete the remaining driving segment within the 11-hour driving limit. This demonstrates a lack of understanding of how HOS rules function in conjunction. Another incorrect approach is to proceed with the pickup and then attempt to make up the time later by driving longer than permitted or by misrepresenting on-duty time on the electronic logging device, ELD. This is a direct violation of FMCSA regulations and constitutes falsification of records, a serious offense with severe penalties. It also directly undermines the purpose of HOS regulations, which is to ensure drivers are not fatigued. A third incorrect approach is to rely on the assumption that the ELD will automatically adjust or allow for minor overages. ELDs are designed to record time accurately and will flag any violations. Relying on the device to fix a potential violation is a misunderstanding of its function and a failure to take personal responsibility for compliance. Professional reasoning. Professionals in the commercial driver industry must adopt a proactive and conservative approach to HOS compliance. This involves 1. Continuous monitoring of available driving and on-duty hours. 2. Understanding the precise definitions of driving time, on-duty time, and off-duty time as per FMCSA regulations. 3. Accurately utilizing and understanding the functionality of their ELD. 4. Prioritizing safety and compliance above all else, even if it means declining a revenue-generating opportunity. 5. Consulting with their carrier or supervisor if there is any ambiguity regarding HOS rules or a specific situation. Question 10. The risk matrix shows a high probability of severe consequences when commercial passenger vehicles interact with active railroad crossings. You are operating your bus and approaching a railroad crossing. You see flashing red lights and hear the train's horn. The crossing gates have not yet begun to descend. What is the safest and most compliant course of action? Option A. Accelerate to pass through the crossing as quickly as possible before the gates start to descend. Option B. Stop the bus at a safe distance from the tracks and wait for the train to pass, then visually confirm the tracks are clear before proceeding. Option C. Activate your hazard lights and stop the bus immediately on the tracks to signal to the train that you are a passenger vehicle. Option D. Continue across the tracks at a reduced speed to ensure you clear the crossing before the gates fully descend. The correct answer is D. Continue across the tracks at a reduced speed to ensure you clear the crossing before the gates fully descend. Explanation. This scenario is professionally challenging because it requires the driver to make a rapid, safety-critical decision under potentially stressful conditions, balancing the need to maintain a schedule with the absolute imperative of avoiding a catastrophic accident. The driver must interpret multiple cues and apply learned procedures correctly. The correct approach represents best professional practice, because it prioritizes the safety of passengers and the public above all else, adhering strictly to the established regulatory framework for approaching and crossing railroad tracks. This involves a proactive and cautious mindset, ensuring the vehicle is under complete control and that all warning signals are heeded. The driver's responsibility is to operate the vehicle in a manner that minimizes risk, and this approach embodies that principle by ensuring a clear and safe passage. An incorrect approach that involves accelerating to beat a descending gate is a severe regulatory and ethical failure. This action directly violates regulations requiring drivers to stop when warning signals are activated and gates are descending. Ethically, it demonstrates a reckless disregard for passenger and public safety, prioritizing expediency over life. Another incorrect approach, such as proceeding across the tracks without confirming the train has passed after stopping, is also a critical failure. This demonstrates a lack of diligence and a failure to follow established safety protocols, potentially leading to a collision due to misjudgment or a misunderstanding of the train's movement. Failing to activate hazard lights when stopped at a crossing, even if the train has passed, is a minor but still relevant failure in maintaining situational awareness and signaling intent to other road users, which can contribute to confusion and potential secondary incidents. Professionals should use a decision-making framework that begins with a thorough understanding and constant reinforcement of all applicable safety regulations. When approaching a railroad crossing, the driver must actively scan for warning signs and signals. Upon observing any indication of an approaching train, flashing lights, sounding bells, descending gates, the immediate and non-negotiable action is to stop the vehicle a safe distance from the tracks. After stopping, the driver must visually confirm that no train is approaching from either direction and that the tracks are clear before proceeding. This systematic, rule-based approach, coupled with constant vigilance, is essential for preventing accidents. Question 11. Assessment of a commercial bus driver's response to encountering a sudden heavy downpour with significantly reduced visibility and slippery road conditions while operating on a highway, considering the need to maintain a schedule. Which of the following actions best demonstrates adherence to safe vehicle operation principles under these circumstances? Option A. Reduce speed significantly, increase following distance, and activate headlights to improve visibility. Option B. Pull over to the side of the road immediately and stop the vehicle until the rain subsides. Option C. Continue at the scheduled speed, relying on increased braking to compensate for reduced traction. Option D. Maintain the scheduled speed and assume other drivers will adjust to the conditions. The correct answer is A. Reduce speed significantly, increase following distance, and activate headlights to improve visibility. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge due to the inherent risks associated with operating a commercial passenger vehicle, particularly in adverse weather conditions. The driver must balance the need to maintain a schedule with the paramount responsibility of ensuring passenger safety. This requires a nuanced judgment call that prioritizes safety over strict adherence to a timetable when conditions deteriorate. The correct approach represents best professional practice because it directly aligns with the core principles of safe vehicle operation mandated by commercial driver regulations. Specifically, it emphasizes the driver's duty to assess environmental conditions and adjust their driving behavior accordingly to mitigate risks. This proactive approach, which involves slowing down and increasing following distance, is a fundamental requirement for preventing accidents, particularly in situations where visibility is reduced and traction is compromised. It demonstrates an understanding of the legal and ethical obligations to protect passengers, which supersedes any pressure to maintain a rigid schedule. An incorrect approach that prioritizes maintaining the schedule despite adverse weather conditions is professionally unacceptable. This failure constitutes a direct violation of safe driving practices and regulatory mandates. It demonstrates a disregard for passenger safety and an abdication of the driver's responsibility to operate the vehicle in a manner that accounts for environmental hazards. Such an approach could lead to accidents, injuries, and significant legal and financial repercussions for the driver and the operating company. Another incorrect approach, such as continuing at normal speed but relying solely on braking, is also professionally flawed. While braking is a necessary component of safe driving, it is insufficient as the sole mitigation strategy in adverse conditions. It fails to account for the reduced traction and increased stopping distances, making it a reactive rather than a proactive safety measure. This approach ignores the fundamental principle of anticipating and preventing hazards. A further incorrect approach, such as stopping the vehicle entirely without assessing the immediate surroundings or potential hazards of stopping in a particular location, can also be problematic. While stopping might seem like a safe option, it must be done judiciously. Stopping abruptly in a travel lane without proper signaling or consideration for other traffic can create its own set of dangers. The decision to stop should be part of a comprehensive safety assessment, not an isolated action. The professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve a systematic risk assessment. This includes 1. Identifying the hazard, e.g., heavy rain, fog, snow. 2. Evaluating the severity of the hazard and its impact on vehicle control, e.g., reduced visibility, slippery roads. 3. Determining appropriate mitigation strategies, e.g., reducing speed, increasing following distance, using headlights. 4. Continuously monitoring conditions and adjusting driving behavior as needed. The driver must always prioritize safety, even if it means deviating from the schedule, and communicate any significant delays or safety concern to their dispatch or passengers. Question 12. Comparative studies suggest that the most critical factor in preventing tire-related incidents in commercial passenger transport is a driver's ability to accurately assess tire condition during routine inspections. Considering the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Regulations, FMCSR, and best practices for passenger safety, which of the following actions demonstrates the most responsible and compliant approach when a driver notices a tire with a visible bulge on its sidewall during a pre-trip inspection? Option A. Inflate the tire to a higher pressure to compensate for the bulge, assuming this will temporarily stabilize the tire for the duration of the trip. Option B. Monitor the tire closely throughout the route, checking its pressure periodically, and plan to have it inspected at the next scheduled maintenance stop. Option C. Continue the route as scheduled, as the bulge is not affecting the tire's ability to hold air and the tread depth is still within legal limits. Option D. Immediately report the tire condition to the appropriate supervisor or maintenance personnel, and do not operate the vehicle until the tire is inspected and deemed safe or replaced. The correct answer is C. Continue the route as scheduled, as the bulge is not affecting the tire's ability to hold air and the tread depth is still within legal limits. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario presents a common yet critical challenge for commercial passenger transport drivers, identifying and responding to potential tire issues that could compromise safety and regulatory compliance. The professional challenge lies in accurately assessing tire condition under varying operational pressures and making informed decisions that prioritize passenger safety and adhere to strict federal regulations. Misjudgment can lead to vehicle breakdowns, accidents, and significant legal and financial repercussions. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach involves a systematic visual inspection of the tires, focusing on tread depth, sidewall integrity, and signs of uneven wear. This aligns directly with the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Regulations, FMCSR, Part 396, specifically concerning inspection and maintenance. Regulations mandate that drivers perform pre-trip inspection to ensure the vehicle is in safe operating condition, which includes tires. Identifying a tire with less than 4/32-inch tread depth in the major grooves of front tire, or less than 2/32-inch in any other tire, or any visible damage like cuts, bulges, or exposed cords, requires immediate attention and potential removal from service. This proactive approach minimizes the risk of tire failure during operation, safeguarding passengers, and adhering to legal requirements. Incorrect approach is analysis. One incorrect approach is to dismiss minor tread, whereas acceptable if the tire still has some visible tread. This fails to meet the minimum tread depth requirements stipulated by FMCSR and significantly increases the risk of hydroplaning or loss of traction, especially in adverse weather conditions. It demonstrates a failure to conduct a thorough inspection and a disregard for regulatory safety standards. Another incorrect approach is to prioritize completing the scheduled route over addressing a suspected tire issue, such as a slow leak or a visible bulge. This prioritizes operational expediency over passenger safety and regulatory compliance. FMCSR require that any defect or deficiency that could affect the safe operation of the vehicle must be corrected before the vehicle is driven. Ignoring such a defect is a direct violation and creates an unacceptable risk. A third incorrect approach is to assume that a tire's age is the sole indicator of its condition, without performing a physical inspection. While tire age is a factor in degradation, visual inspection for damage, wear, and proper inflation is paramount. A seemingly new tire can have defects, and an older tire might still be serviceable if properly maintained and free from damage. Relying solely on age is an incomplete and potentially dangerous assessment. Professional reasoning. When faced with a potential tire issue, a commercial driver must adopt a risk-based decision-making process. This involves 1. Understanding the regulatory requirements for tire condition, FMCSR Part 396. 2. Conducting a thorough pre-trip and post-trip inspection, meticulously examining all aspects of the tire system. 3. Assessing the severity of any identified issue against the regulatory standards and potential safety implications. 4. Prioritizing safety and compliance above all else. If a tire is found to be defective or below minimum safety standards, the vehicle must not be operated until the issue is rectified. 5. Documenting all inspections and any identified defects and corrective actions taken, as required by regulations. Question 13. Strategic planning requires a commercial passenger transport driver to proactively manage potential risks. Considering the critical importance of hazard perception, which of the following actions best demonstrates a comprehensive approach to anticipating and mitigating dangerous situations, particularly those related to driver condition? Option A. Minimize reporting of minor fatigue symptoms to avoid disrupting the schedule, as most drivers experience some level of tiredness during long shifts. Option B. Continuously scan the environment for immediate traffic threats and adjust driving accordingly, while also self-monitoring for any signs of fatigue or impairment and reporting them as per company policy. Option C. Push through feelings of tiredness to ensure the scheduled route is completed on time, believing that experience compensates for fatigue. Option D. Focus solely on identifying and reacting to other vehicles' erratic behavior, assuming personal alertness is sufficient for safe operation. The correct answer is B. Continuously scan the environment for immediate traffic threats and adjust driving accordingly, while also self-monitoring for any signs of fatigue or impairment and reporting them as per company policy. Explanation. This scenario is professionally challenging because it requires the driver to balance immediate operational demands with long-term safety and regulatory compliance. Driver must not only perceive immediate hazards, but also anticipate future risks stemming from their own condition and the environment. Careful judgment is required to prioritize safety over perceived operational efficiency or personal comfort. The correct approach represents best professional practice because it directly addresses the core principles of hazard perception and defensive driving as mandated by commercial drivers' licensed passenger transport regulations. Recognizing and mitigating driver fatigue and impairment are paramount to preventing accidents, protecting passengers, and adhering to hours of service rules. This proactive stance aligns with the ethical responsibility of a commercial driver to ensure the safety of all individuals on board and the public. An incorrect approach that prioritizes completing the route regardless of personal condition fails to uphold the fundamental duty of care. This directly violates regulations concerning driver fitness for duty and hours of service, which are designed to prevent accidents caused by fatigue or impairment. Ethically, it demonstrates a disregard for passenger safety and the potential harm to other road users. Another incorrect approach that involves downplaying symptoms of fatigue or impairment to avoid reporting is a serious regulatory and ethical breach. This not only endangers passengers, but also falsifies records and undermines the integrity of the safety management system. It is a direct violation of reporting requirements and demonstrates a lack of professional integrity. A further incorrect approach that focuses solely on immediate traffic hazards without considering personal condition overlooks a critical component of hazard perception. While immediate hazards are important, the driver's own state of alertness is a significant contributing factor to their ability to perceive and react to those hazards. Failing to address personal impairment is a failure to engage in comprehensive defensive driving. Professionals should use a decision-making framework that begins with self-assessment of fitness for duty. This involves honestly evaluating one's physical and mental state against the demands of driving. If any doubt exists regarding fatigue or impairment, the next step is to consult company policy and regulatory guidelines for reporting and taking appropriate action, which may include resting or seeking medical attention. This proactive approach, coupled with continuous environmental scanning for hazards and employing defensive driving techniques, forms a robust safety strategy. Question 14. To address the challenge of a passenger reporting a strong, unusual odor emanating from a package in the cargo hold of a bus, what is the most appropriate and legally compliant course of action for a commercial driver operating under Commercial Driver's License Passenger Transport Regulations? Option A. Immediately stop the bus in a safe location, notify dispatch of the passenger's report and the nature of the odor, and await further instructions before taking any action regarding the package. Option B. Instruct the passenger who reported the odor to retrieve the package and dispose of it at the next scheduled stop. Option C. Continue the route as scheduled, assuming the odor is not a significant threat, to avoid delaying passengers and adhere to the timetable. Option D. Open the cargo hold to visually inspect the package and attempt to identify the source of the odor to determine if it is a hazardous material. The correct answer is A. Immediately stop the bus in a safe location, notify dispatch of the passenger's report and the nature of the odor, and await further instructions before taking any action regarding the package. Explanation: this scenario is professionally challenging because a commercial driver transporting passengers must balance the immediate need to respond to a potential hazard with the strict regulations governing the transport of hazardous materials. The driver's primary responsibility is the safety of their passengers, but they also have a legal obligation to comply with hazardous materials regulations. Misidentifying or mishandling a hazardous material can lead to severe consequences, including injury, environmental damage, and legal penalties. Careful judgment is required to assess the situation accurately and take appropriate action without causing undue alarm or violating regulations. The correct approach represents best professional practice because it prioritizes passenger safety while adhering to regulatory requirements for hazardous materials. By immediately notifying dispatch and following their instructions, the driver ensures that trained personnel are involved in assessing and managing the situation. This aligns with the principle of when in doubt, report, and ensures that the response is coordinated and compliant with the Commercial Driver's License Passenger Transport Regulations, specifically those pertaining to hazardous materials identification and emergency procedures. This approach minimizes risk to passengers and the public. An incorrect approach that involves attempting to handle the substance without proper training or equipment is a significant regulatory and ethical failure. Commercial drivers are not trained or authorized to handle hazardous materials beyond basic emergency response protocols. Such actions could exacerbate the hazard, leading to injury or exposure, and would violate regulations that mandate specific training and certification for handling hazardous materials. Another incorrect approach, such as continuing the route without reporting the suspicious substance, is a critical regulatory and ethical failure. This demonstrates a disregard for passenger safety and a violation of the duty to report potential hazards. The Commercial Driver's License Passenger Transport Regulations require drivers to be vigilant and report any unusual circumstances that could compromise safety. Ignoring a potential hazardous material could lead to a catastrophic event. The professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve a clear hierarchy of actions. 1. Prioritize immediate safety of passengers. 2. Assess the situation from a safe distance, if possible, without direct contact. 3. Immediately report the situation to the designated authority, dispatch, supervisor. 4. Follow the instructions provided by the authority. 5. If instructed to evacuate, do so calmly and efficiently. 6. Never attempt to handle or move a potentially hazardous substance unless specifically trained and authorized to do so as part of an emergency response. Question 15. Risk assessment procedures indicate that a commercial passenger transport vehicle has completed its passenger boarding at a designated stop. The driver has closed the vehicle doors. What is the absolute priority before the driver initiates movement? Option A. Proceed immediately after the door closing mechanism indicates the doors are shut. Option B. Initiate movement if a single passenger signals they are ready to depart. Option C. Rely on the audible sound of the door latch to confirm readiness for departure. Option D. Visually confirm that all passengers are seated and the vehicle doors are securely closed. Correct answer is D. Visually confirm that all passengers are seated and the vehicle doors are securely closed. Explanation: scenario analysis. This scenario presents a common challenge for commercial passenger transport drivers, balancing the need to maintain a schedule with the paramount importance of passenger safety and regulatory compliance. The driver must make a judgment call under pressure, considering potential hazards and the specific requirements of safe passenger loading and unloading. The professional challenge lies in prioritizing safety and adherence to regulations over perceived time constraints, which can be influenced by passenger expectations or dispatch pressures. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach prioritizes the driver's responsibility to ensure a safe environment for passengers before initiating movement. This aligns directly with the core principles of safe driving procedures, mandated by commercial driver regulations. Specifically, it emphasizes the driver's duty to visually confirm that all passengers are safely seated and that the vehicle's doors are properly secured before moving. This proactive measure prevents accidents such as passengers falling or being ejected from the vehicle, which are serious safety violations. Ethical considerations also dictate that the driver's primary duty is to the well-being of their passengers. Incorrect approaches analysis. One incorrect approach involves initiating movement immediately after closing the doors without a visual confirmation of passenger seating. This directly violates safe driving procedures by creating a significant risk of injury to passengers who may not be seated or are still in the process of seating themselves. This failure to exercise due diligence in ensuring passenger safety is a regulatory and ethical breach. Another incorrect approach is to rely solely on the audible click of the door closing mechanism as confirmation of readiness to move. While door integrity is important, it does not guarantee passenger safety within the vehicle. This approach neglects the critical step of visually verifying that all passengers are secured, which is a fundamental aspect of safe passenger transport operations and a direct contravention of safe driving protocols. A third incorrect approach is to proceed if a passenger indicates they are ready, without the driver personally verifying the safety of all other passengers. This demonstrates a failure to maintain overall situational awareness and a disregard for the safety of the entire passenger group. The driver's responsibility extends to all individuals on board, not just those who communicate their readiness. This selective attention to passenger readiness is a significant lapse in professional judgment and a violation of safe driving responsibilities. Professional reasoning. Professionals in commercial passenger transport must adopt a systematic approach to pre-departure checks. This involves a mental checklist that includes visual confirmation of passenger seating, door security, and awareness of the surrounding environment. When faced with time pressures, the decision-making process should always default to the safest option, even if it means a slight delay. This involves understanding that regulatory compliance and passenger safety are non-negotiable. Professionals should be trained to communicate effectively with passengers to manage expectations regarding departure times when safety checks require additional moments. The core principle is that the vehicle should not move until the driver has absolute certainty that it is safe to do so for all passengers. Question 16. The performance metrics show a noticeable increase in the distance required to bring the bus to a complete stop, even under normal braking conditions. The driver has also reported a slight sponginess in the brake pedal feel. Considering the vehicle is equipped with an air brake system, which of the following actions best represents a professional and compliant response to this situation? Option A. Focus solely on visually inspecting the brake pads for wear and replace them if they appear thin, as this is the most common cause of reduced braking. Option B. Attempt to adjust the brake pedal free play by manipulating the brake pedal itself, as this is a common driver adjustment for minor braking issues. Option C. Immediately pull over to a safe location and conduct a thorough pre-trip inspection of the air brake system, paying close attention to audible air leaks, air pressure buildup, and the functionality of the parking brake, and if any issues are found, do not proceed until repaired. Option D. Continue operating the vehicle to the next scheduled stop, assuming the issue is minor and will resolve itself, and then check the brake fluid level. Correct answer is C. Immediately pull over to a safe location and conduct a thorough pre-trip inspection of the air brake system, paying close attention to audible air leaks, air pressure buildup, and the functionality of the parking brake, and if any issues are found, do not proceed until repaired. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario presents a common challenge for commercial drivers operating vehicles equipped with air brake systems. The driver has observed a deviation from expected brake performance, which could indicate a developing issue. The professional challenge lies in accurately diagnosing the potential cause of the reduced braking effectiveness and determining the appropriate course of action to ensure passenger safety and regulatory compliance. Ignoring or misinterpreting These signs can lead to serious accidents and violations of commercial driver regulations. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach involves a systematic, multifaceted evaluation that directly addresses the observed performance issue. This includes performing a thorough pre-trip inspection specifically focusing on the air brake system, checking for audible air leaks, verifying the air pressure buildup rate, and confirming the functionality of the parking brake. Furthermore, understanding the operational characteristics of air brakes, such as the importance of proper adjustment and the potential impact of component wear, is crucial. This approach aligns with the regulatory requirement for drivers to ensure their vehicle is in safe operating condition before and during operation, as mandated by commercial drivers' license passenger transport regulations. It prioritizes safety by proactively identifying and addressing potential brake system failures. Incorrect approach is analysis. One incorrect approach is to simply continue operating the vehicle, assuming the reduced braking is a minor, temporary issue. This directly violates the driver's responsibility to operate a safe vehicle and disregards the potential for a critical brake system failure, which is a severe regulatory and ethical breach. Another incorrect approach is to only check the brake fluid level. This is fundamentally flawed because air brake systems do not utilize hydraulic fluid in the same way as hydraulic brake systems. Focusing on fluid levels in an air brake system indicates a lack of understanding of the specific technology, leading to a failure to diagnose the actual problem and a potential violation of maintenance and inspection regulations. A third incorrect approach is to solely rely on the visual appearance of the brake pads. While pad wear is a component of brake performance, it does not encompass the entire air brake system's functionality, which includes air pressure, valves, chambers, and slack adjusters. This narrow focus ignores critical operational aspects and potential air system leaks or malfunctions, failing to meet the comprehensive inspection requirements. Professional reasoning. When faced with a perceived issue in brake performance, a commercial driver must adopt a systematic and informed decision-making process. This process begins with acknowledging the driver's primary responsibility for vehicle safety. The driver should then consult their training and the vehicle's operating manual to understand the specific brake system, air, or hydraulic. A thorough pre-trip inspection, tailored to the observed symptom and the type of brake system, is paramount. If any doubt or abnormality persists after the inspection, the driver must not operate the vehicle until the issue is rectified by a qualified mechanic. This decision-making framework prioritizes safety, regulatory compliance, and the protection of passengers and the public. Question 17. The monitoring system demonstrates that the driver has been intermittently taking their eyes off the road to consume food and adjust the radio volume for the past 5 minutes while navigating moderate traffic. Which of the following actions best demonstrates adherence to distracted driving regulations and professional responsibility? Option A. Immediately cease all non-driving related activities, including eating and radio adjustment, and return full attention to the driving task and surrounding traffic. Option B. Briefly glance at the food and radio while maintaining a general awareness of the road ahead. Option C. Continue eating but reduce radio adjustments to minimize the duration of distraction. Option D. Pull over to a safe location to finish eating and adjust the radio before resuming the journey. The correct answer is A. Immediately cease all non-driving related activities, including eating and radio adjustment, and return full attention to the driving task and surrounding traffic. Explanation. This scenario is professionally challenging because it requires the driver to make an immediate judgment call under pressure, balancing the need to address a potential safety issue with the imperative to maintain focus on the road. The driver's primary responsibility is the safe transport of passengers, which is directly compromised by distractions. Careful judgment is required to assess the severity of the distraction and the immediate risk it poses. The correct approach represents best professional practice because it prioritizes passenger safety and adherence to regulations concerning distracted driving. By immediately ceasing the distracting activity and focusing on the driving task, the driver mitigates the risk of an accident. This aligns with the core principles of commercial driving, which emphasize vigilance and the avoidance of any action that could impair driving ability. Regulations, such as those governing commercial driver conduct, explicitly prohibit or strongly discourage activities that divert attention from the road. An incorrect approach that involves continuing to engage with the distraction, even briefly, represents a significant regulatory and ethical failure. It demonstrates a disregard for passenger safety and a violation of the duty of care owed to those being transported. Such behavior directly contravenes regulations designed to prevent accidents caused by driver inattention. Continuing to eat while operating a commercial vehicle, for instance, is a clear violation of rules that mandate drivers maintain full control and attention. Similarly, attempting to engage in a conversation on a handheld device, even if brief, is a direct breach of distracted driving laws. The professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve a clear hierarchy of priorities: passenger safety first, then adherence to all traffic laws and regulations, and finally, efficient operation of the vehicle. Drivers should be trained to recognize potential distractions and have pre-established protocols for managing them. This includes immediately ceasing any non-driving activity that could compromise attention and returning full focus to the driving task. If a distraction is persistent or requires significant attention, the safest course of action is to pull over to a safe location before addressing it. Question 18. Consider a scenario where a commercial driver is tasked with transporting a large piece of equipment. The driver has a general understanding of vehicle weight limits, but is unsure if the specific load, combined with their vehicle, will exceed the posted weight restrictions for a particular bridge on their route. What is the most professional and legally compliant course of action? Option A. Proceed with the transport and be prepared to pay any fines if the vehicle is found to be overweight, as the delivery is time-sensitive. Option B. Consult the official weight limit charts for the specific bridge and route, and if necessary, contact the relevant transportation authority for clarification before proceeding. Option C. Rely on the shipper's assurance that the load is properly weighed and within all legal parameters for transport. Option D. Assume the load is within the legal limits, as the equipment is being transported by a reputable company and is not visibly causing the vehicle to sag excessively. Correct answer is B. Consult the official weight limit charts for the specific bridge and route, and if necessary, contact the relevant transportation authority for clarification before proceeding. Explanation: this scenario presents a professional challenge because a commercial driver must not only operate their vehicle safely, but also understand and adhere to complex weight and size regulations that directly impact road safety and legal compliance. Misinterpreting or ignoring these limits can lead to severe consequences, including accidents, damage to infrastructure, fines, and license suspension. The driver's responsibility extends beyond simply driving. It includes a proactive understanding of their vehicle's load and dimensions in relation to legal requirements. The correct approach represents best professional practice because it prioritizes safety and legal compliance above all else. By consulting official weight limit charts and understanding the specific restrictions for the intended route, the driver demonstrates a commitment to operating within the law and ensuring the structural integrity of roads and bridges. This proactive measure prevents potential hazards and avoids legal repercussions, upholding the highest standards of professional conduct expected of a commercial driver. An incorrect approach that involves assuming the load is within limits without verification is a failure of due diligence. This demonstrates a disregard for regulatory frameworks designed to protect public safety and infrastructure. Ethically, it is a breach of the driver's responsibility to operate their vehicle safely. Another incorrect approach, relying on the shipper's assurance without independent confirmation, is also a regulatory and ethical failure. While shippers have responsibilities, ultimate legal accountability for operating an overweight or oversized vehicle rests with the driver and the carrier. This approach abdicates the driver's critical role in ensuring compliance. The professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve a systematic approach. First, understand the vehicle's unladen weight and its maximum permissible gross vehicle weight, GVW. Second, accurately determine the weight of the cargo being transported. Third, consult the relevant regulatory documents, e.g., state or federal weight limit charts, specific route restrictions to confirm compliance. If there is any doubt, the driver must seek clarification from the carrier or relevant authorities before proceeding. This methodical process ensures that all legal and safety requirements are met. Question 19. The investigation demonstrates that a commercial driver is operating a passenger transport vehicle on a rural highway after sunset. Visibility is significantly reduced, and oncoming headlights are causing considerable glare. Which of the following approaches best reflects professional judgment and adherence to safe night driving practices? Option A. Maintain the posted speed limit, as it is the legal maximum, and continue to look directly at oncoming headlights to gauge their intensity. Option B. Reduce speed to a level that allows for safe stopping within the visible distance, ensure headlights are clean and properly aimed, and anticipate glare from oncoming vehicles by briefly looking towards the right edge of the road when necessary. Option C. Increase speed slightly to make better time, assuming that the vehicle's headlights are sufficient for the conditions. Option D. Rely solely on the vehicle's high beams to improve visibility, regardless of oncoming traffic. The correct answer is B. Reduce speed to a level that allows for safe stopping within the visible distance, ensure headlights are clean and properly aimed, and anticipate glare from oncoming vehicles by briefly looking towards the right edge of the road when necessary. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge due to the inherent risks associated with night driving, specifically reduced visibility and the potential for glare. A commercial driver operating a passenger transport vehicle must prioritize the safety of their passengers above all else. This requires a proactive and adaptive approach to driving conditions, rather than a reactive one. The correct approach demonstrates best professional practice by acknowledging the limitations imposed by reduced visibility and glare and implementing specific, safety-oriented adjustments. This aligns with the fundamental principles of safe commercial driving, which emphasize anticipating hazards and mitigating risks, specifically adjusting speed to match visibility, ensuring headlights are clean and properly aimed, and understanding how to manage oncoming headlights are critical for maintaining control and preventing accidents. These actions are directly supported by regulations governing commercial vehicle operation, which mandate safe driving practices, especially under adverse conditions. An incorrect approach that involves maintaining normal speed without considering visibility limitations is a direct violation of safe driving principles and likely regulatory requirements to operate at a speed that allows for safe stopping. Ignoring the impact of glare by continuing to stare directly at oncoming headlights is a failure to manage a known hazard, which is a significant ethical and regulatory lapse. Similarly, failing to check or adjust headlights, assuming they are adequate, demonstrates a lack of due diligence and a disregard for the vehicle's operational readiness for night driving, which is a core responsibility of a commercial driver. Professionals should employ a risk assessment framework that involves 1. Hazard identification, recognizing that reduced visibility and glare are inherent hazards of night driving. 2. Risk analysis, evaluating the potential consequences of these hazards, e.g., inability to see obstacles, disorientation from glare. 3. Risk control, implementing specific strategies to mitigate these risks, e.g., reducing speed, managing glare. 4. Risk review, continuously monitoring conditions and adjusting strategies as needed. This systematic approach ensures that all potential dangers are considered and addressed proactively. Question 20. Upon reviewing the weather forecast and observing the immediate onset of dense fog combined with a steep, winding mountain road, what is the most appropriate risk assessment and operational approach for a commercial driver transporting passengers? Option A. Immediately brake hard and attempt to find a safe pull-off spot without considering traffic behind. Option B. Increase speed to get through the fog-affected area as quickly as possible. Option C. Reduce speed significantly, increase following distance, activate headlights and fog lights, and be prepared to pull over if visibility becomes critically low. Option D. Maintain the scheduled speed to ensure timely arrival, assuming passengers are accustomed to these conditions. Correct answer is C. Reduce speed significantly, increase following distance, activate headlights and fog lights, and be prepared to pull over if visibility becomes critically low. Explanation. This scenario presents a professionally challenging situation because the driver must make a critical decision regarding passenger safety and vehicle operation under conditions that significantly impair visibility and vehicle control. The core challenge lies in balancing the need to maintain a schedule with the absolute imperative to avoid accidents caused by environmental factors. Careful judgment is required to assess the immediate risks posed by the fog and the steep, winding terrain. The correct approach represents best professional practice because it prioritizes safety above all else, aligning directly with the fundamental principles of commercial passenger transport regulations. Specifically, it adheres to the overarching duty of care owed to passengers and the legal requirement to operate a vehicle only when it is safe to do so. This approach involves proactive risk mitigation by reducing speed, increasing following distance, and utilizing appropriate lighting, all of which are standard safe driving practices mandated or strongly implied by CDL regulations for passenger transport. The decision to pull over if conditions become too hazardous demonstrates an understanding of the limits of safe operation and a commitment to preventing potential accidents. An incorrect approach that involves continuing at normal speed or attempting to push through the fog without adjusting driving behavior is a direct violation of safe operating procedures and potentially specific regulations regarding visibility and speed. This demonstrates a failure to assess and respond to environmental hazards, which could lead to a loss of control, collision, and endangerment of passengers. Ethically, it represents a disregard for passenger well-being. Another incorrect approach, such as abruptly braking or swerving without a clear and immediate need, can also be dangerous, especially on steep terrain, and indicates a lack of controlled response to adverse conditions. This could lead to skidding or loss of control, again jeopardizing passenger safety and violating safe driving principles. The professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve a continuous risk assessment. Drivers must constantly evaluate the prevailing weather and road conditions against their ability to operate the vehicle safely. This includes understanding the vehicle's limitations and their own. When adverse conditions are encountered, the immediate steps are to reduce speed, increase awareness, and ensure all safety equipment, lights, wipers, is functioning correctly. If conditions deteriorate to a point where safe operation is compromised, the professional decision is to find a safe location to stop and wait for conditions to improve, rather than risking an accident. This proactive and safety-first mindset is crucial for all commercial drivers.